Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Right now I'll be now taking you through information sources. So please stay tuned. So information sources. So this is my presentation on information sources. So information sources, like they are basically, there are two types of information. There are not two, but there are more. But basically, I'm going to be talking about two sources. The types of information sources, I'll be taking you through types of information sources as you see on my first slide here. So as you can see my first slide, I'll be taking you through types of information sources, the definition, the characteristics of the different types, examples, purpose, different fields, the pros and cons, and then conclusion. So let's go into this. So this is my first slide. So I've been taking you through. So secondly, now I'll be taking you through the types. So there are two types of information sources. There is the primary source, secondary source. There's also the tertiary, the quaternary, but I'll be taking you through only the two sources, primary source and secondary source. And now in my next video, maybe I'll be taking you through the tertiary and the quaternary. So now we're going to go to the definitions. Primary source. Primary source is a direct or first-hand piece of information created at the time of the event. Primary source is just like the information that piece of information that has happened and you have collected it at that time that just happened. Like now, if there is an accident, the person who was there watching is the one that gives the primary source. Now, that is what primary source means. An example of primary sources are very many, as we are going to look at them in the next slides. So secondary source secondary source is one that interprets or summarizes primary source of events. Secondary source is just to come and interpret what already happened. Like I told you, if an accident happens, primary source is that you saw the accident, you can explain whatever happened. But secondary source will come and interpret from the primary source. They'll be like, now, what made it happen? How did it happen? So that is what the secondary source comes to do. It just interprets and evaluates the information to make people understand better. So my next slide, we're going to look at the characteristics of different types of information. Now, primary sources, we're going to start looking at the characteristics. One, originality. These sources are the first to provide information about a particular event or subject. As I told you, primary sources, those are the original information that, like, if you've collected from a scene, like an accident, that information, because you were there, you say exactly what you saw. That is the primary information. That's originality. It's original, it is not duplicated. Next is raw data. Primary sources usually they present unfiltered information. The information is usually unfiltered. It's you explain what you saw. Next is the unmediated evidence. There is no interpretation or analysis from another person. The source itself is evidence. As I told you, if an accident happens, there is here, like if you're going to explain what exactly happened, there is not the interpretation, like sometimes in the village when an accident happens, now people come and say, maybe this person, the clan members are working on him because he has money, those are the things that come in after that. Maybe if someone has gotten an accident. But whatever happened is a primary source. These things people bring after. That's what is called mediated evidence. Those things that people have just created. Next is the time related. They are closely related to the moment they are created. Like if an accident has happened and I come and tell you the information, meaning That information I told you just some few minutes after the what? The accident happened. So that's why they think they're closely related to the moment they are created. If someone has an accident now, I can call a friend just after a few minutes and tell them exactly what happened. Because if it stays for long, I may skip other parts and then tell you things that are not right. And next, we're going to go on secondary sources, the characteristics. One, interpret, in, it is interpretative. Secondary sources involve some level of analysis of the primary sources. They explain the primary sources. So, like if secondary sources are based on the primary sources, they explain, they interpret their evidences basing on the primary sources. If something has happened, the secondary sources will come in to analyze and to make people understand it better. Yeah. Then next is evaluative. They offer opinions or assessment based on the primary sources, as I told you earlier. For them, they based on the primary sources to bring in their information and the research they have gone through. Yeah. Now next is summary. It's always summarizing information. Secondary sources are always summarize. For them, they research about the information, then they summarize everything. Like if an accident has happened now, in case of those old days, what they will conclude, they'll be like, this one, clan leaders are working on him, and that is already a summary. They don't really give the full what? The full information. They just summarize it and be like, this is what has happened, and this is why it is, why this happened. So that is how secondary sources work. So in my next slide, I will be taking you through examples of the sources of information. Primary sources. One of the examples is documents. For example, historical documents like US Constitution, treaties, legal documents, personal letters, newspapers. Yeah, documents. These documents really they're first-hand information like treaties. Days when they used to say like in Uganda when the colonialists were there, they would sign treaties. Those are information that have just been written there and then. It is not interpreted in any way. It is just what happened. Not like legal documents. Legal documents like if you're to they are to write a case against you, that is what happened. There is nothing like they have interpreted it and yeah. Personal letter, if I write my own personal letter, that is the primary source of information. Nothing has been interpreted in my own letter. I'm done wrote it. Newspapers, they always publish what has really happened. They don't bring in explain things. They always publish what has happened. Now creative work is also a primary source. And under creative work there is novels, poem. Novels someone writes basing on experience. What have they been experiencing, and that is primary. Then poem, even a poem. Someone writes a poem basing on what is happening. Because some people always write poems basing on the life they are living. Then artwork. If I draw my piece of information, a piece of like some artwork, like I draw something, yeah, it's not interpreted in any way. It is just what I've written, and yeah. Then a song, yeah, a song like these musicians write songs. Really, there is nothing. It's nothing like there is an explanation in what they've written is what they will say. Then scientific data is like in a lab when they go and test you for some disease. They will bring for you exactly what you're suffering from. There is nothing like an explanation of what happened and then interpreting and yeah. Then there is secondary sources. Secondary sources books, for example, historical books analyzing a specific period. Historical books are there are information that has already been interpreted, evaluated in many ways. Books books are just secondary sources of information. Books are something that has been revised, edited. So then journal articles, for example, research book. You know, journal article. These are articles that have passed through a lot of hands to approve them, edit them. So by the time someone publishes their work, meaning they have really been looked into and seen how they've looked into and interpreted and edited, so it becomes secondary source of information. Then documentaries, for example, videos, films. Yeah, these things, videos, films people watch, these are documentary, these are secondary information, these are things that have been filtered. What? So then essays and reviews. Essays and reviews, these are like in a school. The lecturer sends you to make a research. He comes in and edits it. What? Yeah. Those are basically examples of sources of information. My next slide, I'll be taking purposes in different fields. Primary sources and their purposes. Primary sources, it's raw evidence. As I told you, we said this provides unfiltered information. Many fields, like in medical field, during medical checkups, like in medical fields, they always provide raw evidence, unfiltered information. The disease I've gotten you, that's the disease they tell you. The research foundation, that is also one use of the primary source. Primary sources, they provide a researcher with direct information. For example, in school where a scholar is carrying out research, this provides first-hand information. Yeah. Like sorry. Yeah, I was telling you about the primary sources of information, like the purposes of primary source of information. Yeah, as I told you, provide a researcher with direct information. For example, in school where a scholar is carrying out research, it provides first-hand information. Yeah. So that is basically the purpose of primary sources of information. Then also the direct connection. Like primary sources, really, they connect you to the event, what happened exactly. They always connect you to what exactly happened. Now, we're going to look at secondary sources. Secondary sources, their purpose is like there is contextualization. Secondary sources, they provide the necessary context for primary data. Yeah. Now, secondary sources, for them, basing on the primary data, they bring in a lot of interpretations on the data. You're making people understand better. Then interpretation and analysis, they enable researchers to make sense of primary data. So, when after them interpreting the work, so people start really understanding exactly what happened. Then broader understanding. The secondary sources help to bring in piece of data with a larger understanding. Yeah. It makes you really understand the work better. Yeah. So the next, we're going to look at the pros and cons of the sources of information. Pros means advantages, and then cons means disadvantages. So now we're going to start with secondary information. We're going to start with primary information, the pros. So one of it is offer direct access to past or first-hand accounts. These are just information basing on the event that happened. They give first-hand information. Then they provide originality of the work. So their work is always original. The data is always original. Then at disadvantage, they often interpretation and contextual knowledge, like they so they can also be incomplete and biased sometimes. Primary information most times they have not looked into it and found out the cause and cause of something, maybe an accident or why was it, what happened. Yeah. So sometimes it's incomplete and biased. Sometimes someone can explain, like when they are biased about it, but secondary sources is just to come in like it's like an investigation. They investigate more on them. Yeah, then the secondary sources, their advantages, they provide critical analysis of the data. Yeah, that is one advantage of secondary source. They provide critical analysis of the data. Then they help to connect the dots between different pieces of primary evidence here. No, primary data is always not complete, but for them, they come into complete the primary information. Then the cons, that's the disadvantage. They can introduce misinterpretation or biases. So they can be biased or someone can misinterpret it. Then our second-hand accounts, the second-hand information. So now in conclusion, primary sources are essential for obtaining first-hand information, and secondary sources interpret and analyze primary data. Yeah, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like and share to your friends. Thank you.